Why timelines control everything in commercial contracts. As we transition into Chapter 3, we shift from contract structure into contract performance. Up to this point, we have built the contract. Now we must manage it. In commercial real estate, timelines are not just administrative. They are the backbone of enforceability. Every obligation, right, and protection within the contract is tied to a specific date or deadline. This section ties directly back to due diligence, earnest money, and disclosures. Each of those components only works if the timelines are followed precisely. Missing a deadline can eliminate rights, create breaches, and ultimately cause the transaction to fail. Under AAC R428-1101, licensees are required to exercise reasonable care and diligence, which includes managing and tracking contractual deadlines. Failure to do so can expose both the client and the agent to significant risk. Understanding time is of the essence. Most commercial real estate contracts include a time is of the essence clause. This language means that deadlines are strict and enforceable. Performance must occur exactly as specified in the contract, not close enough. For example, if a buyer has until 5 p.m. on a specific date to complete due diligence or deliver funds, performing at 5:01 p.m. may be considered a failure to perform. This concept is critical in commercial transactions where large sums of money and complex terms are involved. Courts will often enforce these deadlines strictly, especially when the contract clearly states that time is of the essence. Key contract deadlines: what must be tracked. Commercial contracts include multiple critical deadlines, each tied to specific rights and obligations. These typically include earnest money deposit deadlines, due diligence period expiration, financing approval timelines, title review periods, closing and possession dates. For example, a buyer under contract for a commercial office building in Phoenix must track the due diligence expiration date carefully. If they fail to cancel before that deadline, they may lose the right to recover earnest money, even if issues are discovered later. This reinforces the importance of a structured system for tracking dates, whether through transaction management software or manual calendar systems. Cure periods. The opportunity to fix a problem. A cure period is a contractual window that allows a party to correct a failure to perform before it becomes a breach. This is one of the most important protections in a commercial contract. It provides a second chance when something goes wrong. For example, if a buyer fails to deliver earnest money on time, the seller may issue a cure notice. The buyer then has a specified number of days to correct the issue. If the buyer cures within that time frame, the contract continues. If not, the seller may cancel the contract. Cure periods create a balance between strict enforcement and practical flexibility, allowing transactions to stay alive when minor issues arise. Notice requirements, making it official. In order to trigger a cure period, proper notice must be given according to the terms of the contract. This typically includes written notice delivered in a specific manner, such as email or through escrow. Failure to provide proper notice can invalidate the cure process. For example, if a seller verbally tells a buyer that they are in breach but does not provide written notice as required by the contract, the cure period may not officially begin. This could delay enforcement and create confusion. This ties directly into ARS, paragraph 44-101, Statute of Frauds, which emphasizes the importance of written agreements and documentation in real estate transactions. Material versus minor breach, understanding the difference. Not all failures to perform are treated equally. A material breach is a significant failure that affects the core of the contract, while a minor breach may not justify termination. For example, failing to close on time is typically considered a material breach. Being 1 day late on delivering a non-critical document may be considered a minor issue, depending on the contract terms. Understanding this distinction is critical when advising clients on their rights and options. Agent responsibilities. Managing the timeline agents are responsible for helping clients stay on track throughout the transaction. This includes monitoring deadlines, communicating upcoming obligations, and ensuring that actions are taken on time. Under AAC R428-1103, brokers are required to supervise transactions and ensure compliance. This includes implementing systems that help agents manage timelines effectively. For example, a brokerage may require agents to input all contract deadlines into a transaction management platform to ensure nothing is missed. Failure to manage timelines properly can lead to disciplinary action, lost transactions, and potential liability. Real-world scenario: when a missed deadline costs the deal. Consider a buyer purchasing a retail strip center in Gilbert. The buyer intends to cancel during the due diligence period due to concerns about tenant stability. However, the agent miscalculates the deadline and submits the cancellation 1 day late. Because the due diligence period has expired, the buyer no longer has the right to cancel without losing earnest money. The buyer is now faced with either proceeding with the purchase or forfeiting a significant deposit. This scenario highlights how a simple timeline mistake can have major financial consequences. Connecting this section to the contract lifecycle. This section marks the transition from building the contract to actively managing it. Timelines and cure periods ensure that the contract operates as intended, providing structure and accountability for both parties. As we move into the next section, we will explore default, breach, and remedies. What happens when timelines are not met and the contract begins to break down? This is where enforcement becomes critical and where the true strength of the contract is tested. Online discussion. Why is the phrase "time is of the essence" so important in commercial contracts? Answer. It makes all deadlines strict and enforceable, meaning that even small delays can result in a failure to perform and potential breach of contract. What is the purpose of a cure period? Answer. A cure period allows a party to correct a failure to perform within a specified time frame, preventing the contract from immediately being terminated. What can happen if proper notice is not given when initiating a cure period? Answer. The cure period may not be valid, which can delay enforcement and create legal complications in the transaction.